Ambassador Min-ho Kim gazed through the reinforced viewport of the diplomatic vessel Harmony as the alien world grew larger before them. The planet's twin suns cast an orange glow across swirling purple clouds, and 3 silver moons hung like jewels in the star-filled sky. After 200 years of reaching into the void and finding only empty worlds, humanity had finally discovered they were not alone in the universe. "Distance to orbital approach, Captain," Min-ho asked, adjusting his formal diplomatic uniform. The weight of representing all of Earth pressed heavily on his shoulders. Captain Do-hyun Lee checked his navigation console. 30 minutes to standard diplomatic orbit, Ambassador. The Kithran vessels are maintaining their positions around the planet. No hostile movements detected. Lieutenant Hyejin Park monitored the communication arrays from her station. Banks. 5 screens showed signal patterns and alien frequencies that had taken Earth's best linguists 3 years to decode. "Sir, we're receiving another welcoming transmission from the surface. They're using the same peaceful greeting protocols we established during first contact." Min-ho smiled slightly. The breakthrough had happened 6 months ago when humanity's Deep Space Monitoring Station at Alpha Centauri detected structured radio signals from this system. The messages were mathematical at first, then simple pictures, and finally basic language exchanges. The Kithrans seemed genuinely curious about these new visitors from across the galaxy. "Have you completed the final review of our transmission package?" Min-ho asked his aide, Dr. Sungmin Park, who sat surrounded by data tablets and holographic displays. "Everything is ready, Ambassador." Dr. Park gestured to the glowing screens. "Complete blueprints for our medical nanobots that can repair cellular damage, full cultural databases including our art, music, and literature from every nation on Earth, trade agreements for rare minerals they possess in exchange for our manufacturing technologies." Min-ho walked to the central display showing Earth's prepared message. But the most important part wasn't the technology or trade offers. Floating in the holographic projection was humanity's complete historical record. Every war, every conflict, every moment of violence from ancient battles to the devastating Third World War that had nearly destroyed civilization. "Sir," Hyejin called out, "we're receiving detailed scans from multiple Kethran vessels. They appear to be studying our ship's construction and defensive capabilities." "Standard procedure for first contact," Captain Do-hyun replied calmly. "We're doing the same to them." Through the viewport, Min-ho could see the elegant Kethran ships gliding through space like silver dolphins. Their technology seemed focused on grace and efficiency rather than raw power. Long curved hulls with blue energy trails streaming behind them painted beautiful patterns against the starfield. "The most important part of our message," Min-ho said to his team, "is showing them who we really are. We're not hiding our violent history. We want them to understand that we chose peace not because we're weak, but because we learned the true cost of war." Dr. Park nodded. "The psychological profiles suggest the Kithrans value honesty and direct communication. Showing them our mistakes and how we overcame them should build trust." A soft chime indicated they had reached orbital position. The massive Kethran homeworld filled their view, its cities visible as glowing networks across the continents. Floating platforms and orbital elevators connected the surface to space stations that sparkled like stars. "Ambassador," Hyejin announced, "we're receiving clearance to transmit. The Kethran High Command is ready to receive our message." Min-ho took a deep breath. This single transmission would determine whether humanity gained a peaceful ally among the stars or faced their first interstellar conflict. "Send everything. The medical technology, the cultural exchanges, the trade proposals, and our complete historical records." The ship's powerful transmitters activated, sending streams of data toward the planet below. Humanity's greatest achievements and darkest moments traveled together through space, carried by electromagnetic waves to an alien civilization. "Transmission complete," Hyejin reported. "Signal strength excellent. No interference detected." Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the communication console lit up with incoming signals. "Response from the surface," Hyejin called out excitedly. "They're acknowledging receipt of our complete package. The message is, sir, they're expressing gratitude for our openness and honesty. Captain Do-hyun leaned forward in his command chair. What's their official response? The Kethran High Command requests 72 hours to review our proposal. They want to study everything carefully before giving their formal reply. They're calling it the most comprehensive first contact package they could have imagined. Min-ho felt hope rising in his chest. Any indication of their initial reaction? Positive, sir. They specifically mentioned being impressed by our willingness to share both our technological advances and our historical struggles. One phrase they used translates roughly to, "Wisdom earned through pain brings true strength." The ambassador nodded, watching the alien world turn slowly below them. After centuries of wondering if humanity was alone, they had found not just intelligent life, but a species that seemed to understand the value of learning from past mistakes. "We wait," Min-ho said simply, "and we hope our honesty builds the foundation for lasting peace between our peoples." The silence from the Kethran homeworld had lasted 93 days. Admiral Jinwoo Park stood before the massive holographic display in Earth Defense Station Alpha's command center, watching red dots multiply across the star map. Each dot represented a Kethran fleet movement detected by humanity's deep space sensor network. "Admiral, we've got another fleet formation detected in the Vega sector," called out Tactical Officer Haewon Kim from her station. "That makes 17 separate battle groups repositioning in the last week alone." Jinwoo rubbed his tired eyes. The diplomatic mission had seemed so promising. Ambassador Min-ho's reports from the Harmony had been filled with optimism about peaceful first contact. Now that same ship sat in Earth's orbital shipyard, its crew debriefed and worried about the alien silence. "Any response to our latest communication attempt?" the Admiral asked. Communications specialist Young-ho Lee shook his head. "Nothing, sir. We've sent 47 follow-up messages in the past 3 months. Standard diplomatic protocols, trade inquiries, even basic mathematical sequences. Complete radio silence from their end." Intelligence Chief So Young-choi approached with a data tablet, her face grim. "Admiral, you need to see the latest deep space reconnaissance data. Our stealth probes have detected something troubling in Kethran space." The main display shifted to show detailed scans of the Kethran home system. What they saw made everyone in the command center go quiet. Massive construction platforms floated around 3 different worlds, each one churning out sleek warships at an incredible pace. "How many vessels?" Jinwoo asked quietly. "Conservative estimate. Over 3,000 new ships in the last 2 months, So Young replied. "And these aren't the graceful diplomatic vessels we saw during first contact. These are pure military designs, heavy armor, massive weapon arrays, advanced shielding systems." Sensor analyst Jun-sik Yoon pulled up detailed scans of individual Kethran warships. "Look at these energy signatures, Admiral. Their new vessels are generating power levels 50% higher than anything we detected before. They've clearly been holding back their true military capabilities." Dr. Yoonji Nam, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, entered the command center carrying her own set of data tablets. Her usually calm demeanor was replaced by obvious concern. "Admiral, I've finished analyzing the intercepted Kethran communications from the past month," she announced. "The translation algorithms have improved, and we're getting much clearer readings of their internal military chatter." "What are they saying?" Jinwoo asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know the answer. Dr. Nam activated a holographic display showing Kethran text with human translations scrolling alongside. "They're not discussing trade agreements or cultural exchanges. They're analyzing our historical military data with surgical precision. Every battle we lost, every tactical mistake we made, every weakness we showed during our wars." The command center fell silent, except for the quiet hum of computers processing data from across human space. "Specifically," Dr. Nam continued, "they're fascinated by our defeats during the Battle of Marathon, our tactical errors in the Second World War, and our strategic failures during the corporate wars of 2157. They're treating our historical honesty like a military intelligence briefing." Captain Mi-jin Song, the station's defense coordinator, studied the alien ship designs on her screens. "Admiral, look at these weapon configurations. They're designing their ships specifically to counter human naval tactics. These aren't exploration vessels or even standard warships. These are ships built to fight us. Young Ho at the communication station suddenly straightened. Sir, incoming priority transmission from the outer colony of New Busan. Governor Dong Huan. Park is requesting immediate contact. Put him through, Jin Woo ordered. The holographic display shifted to show a middle-aged man in colonial administrative uniform, his face tense with worry. Admiral Park, we've got a problem out here, Governor Dong Huan began without preamble. Our long-range sensors are detecting Kethran scout ships probing our defensive perimeter. They're not responding to standard identification requests, and they're clearly conducting detailed scans of our orbital defense platforms. How many ships? Jin Woo asked. At least a dozen small vessels, but Admiral, that's not the worst part. They're using active scanning beams powerful enough to penetrate our shielding. They're mapping every defensive installation, every weapon, placement, every weak point in our protection grid. So Young pulled up the tactical display for New Busan colony. Admiral, if they're conducting reconnaissance like this at one outer colony, they're probably doing it everywhere. We need to assume they're gathering complete intelligence on all our border defenses. Dr. Nam looked up from her linguistic analysis. There's something else, Admiral. The Kethran communications include frequent references to something they call soft prey species. The context suggests they use this term for civilizations that prioritize diplomacy over military strength. Jin Woo felt a cold realization settling in his stomach. They think we're weak because we offered peace. Worse than that, Dr. Nam replied. They think we offered peace because we had no choice. They believe our historical losses prove we're inferior warriors who only survived through luck and numbers, not skill or strength. Alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the command center. Tactical displays lit up with new contacts appearing across multiple star systems. Admiral, Hae-won called out from her station. Massive fleet movements detected. Kethran battle groups are advancing toward the neutral zone in 3 separate sectors. Estimated strength, sir, we're looking at over 800 warships moving in coordinated formation. Jin Woo stared at the tactical display showing red arrows pointing toward human space like spears aimed at Earth's children among the stars. The aliens had studied humanity's gift of historical honesty and decided it was actually a confession of weakness. Send immediate alerts to all colonial governors, he ordered, his voice steady despite the growing dread. Activate Defense Protocol 7. All civilian ships are to clear the border zones immediately. The Admiral paused, looking at the faces of his staff, young officers who had trained for this moment but hoped it would never come, and send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them the Kethrans have given us their answer to our offer of peace. Captain Jaemin Song's salvage vessel. Recovery 1 approached the drifting wreckage with extreme caution. The twisted metal, that had once been the diplomatic ship Harmony, tumbled slowly through space, its hull cracked open like a broken egg. Emergency lights flickered weakly along damaged sections, casting eerie shadows across the debris field. Life signs? Jaemin asked his scanner operator, though he already knew the answer from the silence on all communication channels. Negative. Captain, replied sensor specialist Inho Bay, his voice tight with emotion. No life support active. No power to critical systems. She's been dead in space for at least 6 hours. Through the bridge viewport, Jaemin could see strange markings, burned deep into the Harmony's hull plating. The metal around the symbols glowed with residual heat, suggesting whoever did this had used some kind of plasma weapon to carve the message into the ship's armor. Boarding team, prepare for recovery operations, Jaemin ordered. Full environmental suits. Assume hostile contamination protocols until we know what we're dealing with. Chief Engineer Eugene Park suited up with the recovery team, checking her equipment one final time. Captain, the damage patterns don't match any weapon signatures. In our database, these burns go deeper than our heaviest military lasers could achieve. The airlock cycled, and the recovery team jetted across the empty space between ships. The Harmony had been humanity's pride, a vessel built specifically for peaceful first contact missions, equipped with the most advanced communication arrays and diplomatic facilities money could build. Now it was a tomb floating in the darkness. We're inside, Eugene reported over the comm. Main corridor shows signs of rapid decompression. Emergency bulkhead sealed automatically, but her voice trailed off. Report, Chief, Jamin demanded. Captain, they didn't just destroy the ship, they hunted down every single person aboard. The crew didn't die from decompression or system failures. This was deliberate execution. Back on the bridge of Recovery 1, Admiral Jinwoo Park's face appeared on the main communication screen, transmitted from Earth Defense Station Alpha. Captain Song, what's the status of Ambassador Min Ho and his diplomatic team? Jamin swallowed hard. All hands lost, Admiral. 43 crew members, including the ambassador. Sir, you need to see these hull markings. They're not random damage. Someone carved a message into our ship. The recovery team's helmet cameras transmitted images of the alien symbols burned into the Harmony's armor. The markings were precise, deliberate, and clearly meant to be read by human eyes. Patching in our best linguist, Admiral Jin Woo announced. Translator Yejin Lim is standing by. Yejin's voice came through the communication channel, trembling slightly as she analyzed the alien writing. The symbols match Kethran military script, but this isn't their diplomatic language. This is their war tongue. The message reads, "Your peace disgusts us. Submit or perish." The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of ship systems and the distant crackle of space radiation. Suddenly, emergency alerts began screaming across all channels. Admiral Jinwoo's image flickered as multiple incoming transmissions fought for priority. "Admiral," came the panicked voice of Colonial Governor Donghuan Park from New Seoul, "we're under attack. Massive Kethran fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. They're targeting our orbital defense platforms with some kind of energy weapon we've never seen before." The transmission cut to external cameras, showing the horrifying sight of New Seoul's 3 defensive stations exploding in brilliant flashes of light. Kethran warships, sleek and deadly, moved through the destruction like silver sharks. "Busan Station to Earth Command." Another voice broke through the chaos. "We count over 200 enemy vessels. They're not targeting military installations first. They're going straight for civilian population centers." Admiral Jinwoo's face was grim as reports flooded in from across human space. "Captain Song, abort recovery operations. Return to Earth immediately. We're under coordinated attack across 17 star systems." But even as Jamin ordered his crew to prepare for emergency hyperspace jump, more terrible news arrived. "This is Agricultural Station Jeju 7, came a calm voice that Captain Jamin recognized as Governor Yoon Seo Kim. "Kethran bombardment vessels have taken position above our farming platforms. They're not demanding surrender. They're not offering terms. They're just, wait, energy readings are spiking. They're charging weapons and targeting our civilian shelters. They're targeting the children's compounds. How could they possibly know where?" The transmission dissolved into static. Communications specialist Hai Sung Choi frantically worked her controls. "Captain, I'm reading total communication blackout from the Jeju system. No signals, no emergency beacons, nothing. On Earth, President Subin Kang stood in the emergency command center beneath the capital, surrounded by holographic displays showing the scope of the attack. Military advisors, colonial representatives, and cabinet members filled the room as casualty reports climbed on the main screen. "How many colonies?" President Kang asked quietly. Defense Minister Chang Min-yoon consulted his data tablet. "Confirmed. Attacks on 19 worlds, Madam President. Early casualty estimates. We're looking at over 2 million civilians in the first wave alone." "They studied our peace offering," Intelligence Director Min-Jun Lee reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "They analyzed our historical military defeats and concluded we were weak. They saw our diplomatic honesty as proof that humanity couldn't defend itself." President Kang stared at the tactical display showing red markers spreading across human space like a plague. Each red dot represented a world under attack, a colony being destroyed, families being torn apart by alien weapons. "Madam President," Admiral Jinwoo's voice came through the communication system. "The Kethrans aren't just attacking military targets. Intelligence suggests they're specifically hunting down civilians, targeting schools, hospitals, and residential areas. This isn't conquest, this is extermination." The President closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of all the children on those distant worlds who had gone to sleep, thinking they were safe under humanity's protection. They wanted to see what happens when someone threatens our families. she said quietly. "They're about to find out." The Kethrans had given their answer to humanity's offered hand of friendship. Now it was time for humanity to give theirs. The massive Kethran invasion fleet hung at the edge of the Sol system like a dark storm cloud blotting out the stars. Over 1,500 alien warships had dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their sleek hulls gleaming with deadly intent. Earth's long-range sensors counted weapon signatures that could crack planets and shield generators powerful enough to deflect anything humanity had ever built. President Subin Kang stood in the Global Communications Center deep beneath Geneva, surrounded by the most powerful transmission equipment ever constructed. The room buzzed with activity as technicians prepared for what would be humanity's final diplomatic message to the Kethran Collective. "Madam President," Communications Director Woo Jin Kim reported, "all satellite arrays are aligned. We have maximum signal strength to reach every Kethran vessel in the fleet. The message will also broadcast on all civilian frequencies so our people can hear it." Through the reinforced windows, she could see staff members working frantically at monitoring stations. Holographic displays showed the alien fleet's approach vector, straight toward Earth's orbital defense grid. The Kethrans weren't even trying to hide their intentions. "Any word from our outer colonies?" President Kang asked quietly. "Intelligence." Chief Minjun Lee consulted his tablet with grim expression. "New Seoul is gone, Madam President. Over 3 million civilians. Busan Station completely destroyed. Agricultural Worlds Jeju 7 and Dokdo Prime have gone silent. We estimate total casualties at over 8 million and climbing." The President closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of every lost life. Children who would never grow up, families torn apart by alien weapons, entire worlds reduced to ash because humanity had dared to offer peace. "They're hailing us," announced communications specialist Dae-eun Park. "The Kethran Fleet Commander is demanding our immediate and unconditional surrender. They want all human military forces to stand down and prepare for what they call species integration protocols." Defense Minister Chang Min-yoon stepped forward, carrying a sealed briefcase with biometric locks. "Madam President, the activation codes are ready. All hidden defense networks are standing by for your authorization." President Kang looked at the faces around her, young officers who had never seen real war, older advisors who remembered the terrible conflicts that had nearly destroyed Earth centuries ago. They all understood what was about to happen. "Begin transmission," she ordered. The quantum communication arrays powered up with a deep humming sound that vibrated through the reinforced floors. Across Earth's surface, massive transmission towers turned toward space, focusing their signals into a coherent beam that would reach every Kethran ship simultaneously. "This is President Subin Kang of the Terran Federation," she began, her voice steady and clear despite the tears she'd shed in private for the lost colonies. "I speak for all of humanity in this, our final diplomatic communication to the Kethran Collective." On screens throughout the command center, they could see the alien fleet responding to the transmission. Kethran vessels adjusted their formations, clearly listening to every word. "3 months ago, we offered you our friendship, our knowledge, and our commitment to peace. We shared our most advanced medical technology that could have saved millions of your people from disease and suffering. We opened our cultural treasures, our art, our music, our literature, to show you the beauty that intelligent species can create together." The President paused, looking directly into the camera that would carry her words to the alien commanders. "Most importantly, we gave you our complete historical records, every war we had fought, every mistake we had made, every moment of violence. In our species' long climb towards civilization, we shared our darkest chapters because we believed honesty was the foundation of lasting peace." Technical Officer Seung-ho Lim monitored the Kethran fleet's communications. "Madam President, they're broadcasting your message throughout their entire armada. Every ship is receiving the transmission." "You studied our history," President Kang continued, her voice growing colder, "and you concluded that we were weak because we chose diplomacy over destruction. You saw our military defeats and decided we were inferior warriors who survived only through luck and numbers. On the tactical displays, the Kethran fleet continued its steady advance toward Earth's inner system. Their weapons were charging, preparing for the final assault on humanity's homeworld. You studied our wars, but you failed to understand why we stopped fighting them. You assumed it was because we couldn't win, because we lacked the strength or skill for true combat. Defense Minister Changmin opened the briefcase, revealing a complex control panel with dozens of authorization codes. His finger hovered over the activation switches as he waited for the president's signal. "You were wrong," President Kang said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper that somehow carried more menace than any scream. "We didn't stop fighting because we were weak. We stopped fighting because we were too good at it." She paused, letting the words sink in across space to the alien fleet commanders who had thought they were hunting helpless prey. "We learned that our greatest strength wasn't our ability to destroy our enemies. It was our ability to choose not to. For 300 years, we have kept our true military capabilities hidden because we believed the galaxy deserved a chance at peace." The transmission arrays reached maximum power, sending the president's words across space with enough force to penetrate any jamming the aliens might attempt. "You wanted to see what humanity does to those who threaten our families," President Kang concluded, nodding to Defense Minister Changmin. "You wanted to witness our response to the murder of our children. You studied our capacity for war and decided it was insufficient." Changmin input the first series of activation codes. Across human space, hidden installations that had slept for centuries began to wake up. "Now you will learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. You will discover why we stopped fighting each other. You will understand what we became when we turned our full attention to the art of destruction." The final authorization code was entered. Deep space monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures activating throughout the Sol system as humanity's true military might revealed itself for the first time in 3 centuries. "Welcome to Earth," President Kang said quietly. "Try to enjoy your stay." The surface of Titan suddenly split open like a metal flower blooming in reverse. Massive sections of what the Kethrans had assumed was simple industrial infrastructure folded back to reveal the largest military shipyard ever constructed. Dreadnought battleships emerged from hidden berths, their hulls stretching over 10 kilometers long and bristling with weapon systems that made Kethran warships look like children's toys. Admiral Hyun-Soo Kim stood on the bridge of the flagship, Terra's Wrath, watching as 300 hidden vessels revealed themselves across the Sol system. Asteroid mining stations transformed into weapons platforms. Peaceful research installations shed their disguises to become fortress command centers. The orbital habitats around Jupiter opened like deadly flowers, releasing swarms of hunter-killer drones. "All vessels report ready for combat operations," announced Fleet Coordinator Ji-Hoon Park. "Hidden installations throughout human space are coming online. The Kethrans are detecting massive energy signatures from systems they thought were defenseless." The Kethran invasion fleet, which had seemed so overwhelming just minutes before, suddenly found themselves outnumbered 3-1 by ships they had never seen on any intelligence report. Panic spread through their formations as they realized they had walked into a trap spanning multiple star systems. "Execute Operation Nemesis," Admiral Hyun-Soo ordered quietly. Captain Mi Young-shin commanded the stealth destroyer squadron, Shadow Strike, as it materialized directly behind the Kethran rear guard. Her ships had been invisible to alien sensors, using technology developed from humanity's darkest military research programs. The same species that had perfected orbital bombardment during the corporate wars had spent 3 centuries improving their tools of destruction. "Target their command vessels first," Mi Young instructed her weapons officer. "Let's show them what happens when you hunt our children." The stealth destroyers opened fire with particle beam weapons that cut through Kethran shields like they were made of paper. Enemy command ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their debris spinning away into the darkness. Within minutes, the organized Kethran formation dissolved into chaos as ships lost contact with their commanders. Multiple Kethran vessels attempting to retreat, reported Tactical Officer Sung-Min Lee. "Should we pursue?" "No survivors leave this system," Admiral Hyun-Soo replied coldly. "They wanted to see humanity at war. Show them." Across human space, the retribution was swift and absolute. The same engineering brilliance that had built peaceful colonies and diplomatic vessels now focused on the systematic destruction of every Catherine military asset. Automated defense platforms that had masqueraded as communication satellites revealed massive railguns capable of punching holes through battleship armor from across solar systems. On the agricultural world of New Gangwon, General Taiho Jung's marine assault forces prepared for the counterattack. These weren't the peaceful colonists the Kethrans had slaughtered. These were professional soldiers whose ancestors had conquered continents through superior tactics and unbreakable will. Remember what they did to the farming families on Jeju 7? General Jung told his troops as their dropships launched toward Kethran positions. Remember the children they murdered on New Seoul. Today we teach the galaxy that humanity protects its own. The Kethran ground forces had expected to face desperate civilians and lightly armed security personnel. Instead, they found themselves fighting the descendants of soldiers who had perfected urban warfare, siege tactics, and battlefield coordination through centuries of conflict. Human Marines moved through alien defensive positions like ghosts, striking from unexpected directions and vanishing before enemy reinforcements could respond. Within 3 months, the Kethran military command structure had completely collapsed. Their superior warships were being hunted to extinction by human vessels that appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating precision and disappeared before return fire was possible. Admiral Sung Hai-won commanded the deep strike fleet that penetrated into Kethran home territory. Her massive bombardment platforms, disguised as civilian cargo haulers for 3 centuries, now revealed their true purpose as orbital siege weapons capable of reducing entire continents to molten glass. Kethran homeworld in sight, reported Navigation Officer Hyunjin Kim. Their home defense fleet is taking position around the planet. The Kethran ships that had seemed so elegant and dangerous during first contact now appeared fragile and primitive compared to humanity's revealed military might. The same species that had split atoms and scorched worlds had spent 300 years of peace developing weapons that could crack planets. Open communication channels, Admiral Sung Hai ordered. Let them see what's coming. The Kethran High Command watched in horror as human battleships took position around their homeworld. These weren't the graceful diplomatic vessels they had destroyed, or the simple colony defense ships they had brushed aside. These were instruments of annihilation, designed by a species that had mastered the art of total war. Surrender now, Admiral. Seong-hee broadcast to the planet below, or watch your world burn like you burned ours. The response came within minutes. The proud Kethran High Command, who had thought humanity weak and defenseless, transmitted their unconditional surrender across all frequencies. We yield, came the broken voice of the Kethran Supreme Commander. We did not know. We did not understand what we were facing. President Subin Kang's response was broadcast from Earth to every corner of the galaxy. Her words were simple, final, and carried the weight of humanity's newfound reputation. Now you do. The war was over in 6 months. Kethran survivors were relocated to designated worlds under human supervision. Their military was disbanded, their weapons destroyed, their shipyards converted to peaceful purposes under human oversight. Humanity returned to its diplomatic missions and peaceful exploration, but the galaxy had learned a terrible lesson. The species that offered friendship and shared their knowledge freely, was also capable of unleashing destruction beyond imagination when their families were threatened. Trade routes opened as other alien civilizations sought peaceful contact with humanity. Diplomatic missions arrived bearing gifts and treaties, all eager to avoid the fate that had befallen the Kethrans. In the deep space, cantinas and trading posts scattered across the galaxy. One phrase was whispered among spacers of every species: never mistake human kindness for human weakness. They chose peace because they were too good at war. The children of Earth could sleep safely again, protected by the knowledge that anyone who threatened them would face the full fury of a species that had turned peace into their greatest weapon and war into their most devastating art. The end.